Hi friends. Well, as usual, I don't know what I'm doing here. I'm just here. Let's let that be enough as I talk to myself. I'm finding, finally, that although it wasn't hugely obvious, we did make some sort of a shift on 12/21. I guess it shouldn't be a huge surprise, but with expectations as high as they were, I think that's most likely why it wasn't noticed so much, what we received. And I can't put a finger on it. It's that subtle. Not tenuous, it's really there. But, I mean, how do you put words to higher dimensional things, huh? I think it's a miracle and a marvel every time it comes out. What does it feel like to be in now? To be observing the monkey mind until it slows down and you get more and more of those quiet spaces between thoughts. Those are nice. I think we don't get more of them largely because of resistance to mind and to thought. It's like the mind wants to shut itself down. Yeah, that's going to work, right? Uh-huh. I don't think so. I was trying tonight in my meditation or quiet time to perceive from two chakras at once, to split the focus. I don't know if that's the right word, just to have both of them be my reality, and that would be heart and third eye. You know, I was moderately successful. They have such a different feel. And yet, maybe one of the biggest things we can do for ourselves, you know, I'm all the time saying, don't identify with the body or the mind, and remember and recognize who you really are, who we really are, which is divine. And yet, we tend not only to be stuffed into left brain a lot, but to measure the self by the dimensions of the body. And so a nice reminder to break out of that is that you contain the body, it doesn't contain you. You're infinite, my friends. You're much more like the space where you are than the things that are in it. I think going forward into this century, science is going to discover the majesty and the mystery that is the space. Everything's enfolded within everything else. It's fractal and holographic. Does that make it unreal? I don't know, define real. What's real to you? Real to me is eternal. And so, I mean, the steadiest thing about 3D, the most permanent non-changing thing is that the only constant is change. Well, there's a bit of a mind pretzel, or maybe half of one. It doesn't pretzel the mind too much. It's my delight to pretzel the mind. It's fun. And the mind is a good sport, really, you know, especially since I quit beating up on it, as I was doing there for a little while. So determined was I that I was going to center my awareness in heart, that I did knock it around a bit, put the dunce cap on it and told it to go sit in the corner and all that kind of thing. Yeah, right. Well, I mean, maybe the ultimate pretzel is that there is no separation at all. There aren't any things, because to have a thing requires that it separate out from the whole. So you can't say there's no separation between things. You're not there yet. There's just no separation. That's kind of cool. And yet, maybe as long as we're working with and in 3D, every coin will have two sides, even though there's no separation. And so, what would the other side of no separation be? I don't know. I mean, separation isn't real. It's just a seeming. But it's a pretty darn important aspect of what we chose to be doing here, or not what, but how we chose to do it all together. I'm having loads of fun taking my power back from everywhere I discover and uncover that I gave it away, and taking full responsibility for the life, for the embodiment, because we am God. That's what we came here to rediscover. Our challenge was to go from ground zero, which was no memory of our broader self, other lifetimes, dimensions, etc. You know how it is. You get the memory wipe when you come in. If not right at birth, then you're acculturated to it pretty soon. And things begin to just fade away. So we came in with such great faith and trust that this couldn't slow us down. This was okay. We could do it. We could put ourselves seemingly under the power, control, and domination of, call it what you will, you know, the bad guys, the Illuminati, the powers that were, and still come out from under. For a long while, we tried to do that by fighting. And that wasn't very wise, but you learn that by doing, which ties in nicely to you can't do anything wrong. It's all an uncovering, a remembering. Separation dismembers us, not just from the memory, from each other. Now, all of this is a seeming, ultimately, because the ultimate reality is no separation. If we come down a few notches from that, the ultimate reality is that we are higher self. Now, higher and lower, left and right, that kind of thing is very linear in 3D. I'm switching to use the word essence, our essence, our native divinity. It's better for the purpose, but what I'm meaning by it is what I once meant by higher self, only now I've discovered it's this very self. So, oh my God, are we in transition or what? Yes, we are. And so, there's an undressing going on, a letting go of the various aspects and elements of, I don't know what to call it. I mean, you could call it ego, but the ego isn't bad. It isn't something that needs to be killed any more than mind. It just is, right? So I don't mean to imply anything negative. It's just that we gave our power away everywhere. We literally gave things power over us, while doing a very good job of playing the game. I mean, there was nothing wrong with that. And so now we take it back. But the beauty of it is that things like war on terror, to war for peace, is quite insane. It's quite literally insane. There's a lot of things. I think I had to recognize the insanity of the adults, especially in the Western world, which is the one I know most intimately. The farthest away I've been is Canada, so I'm still in America. The everyday sheeple and sleeple is quite insane, and have been convinced that they're the sane ones and everyone else is insane. This is the effect of the programming. One thing it does is it shows us the power of mind, the potential power of mind. And those on the higher dimensions cannot help but have more facility and more access to their own minds. And so they can trick us. They can be much slicker. Well, that was a seeming reality that we fell in with for a while. Again, in taking full responsibility for the lifetime, you have to know that you were in on the planning of this lifetime, and you had darn good reason for selecting the various experiences that you set yourself up for. So the finger of blame points one way, and only one. Even though, it doesn't matter. None of it matters. We set ourselves up for it. And I'm not talking karma. Just the game. The grand drama, as I have been calling it, of life in 3D. We're really not quite in 3D anymore. I mean, first of all, if you accept what a lot of them say, 3D is only 3 dimensions and we live in 4. Height, width, and depth does not give you motion. For that you need time. And so this can be looked at as the 4th dimension, but I think we're transitioning higher than that. And I think we're breaking through now and again into other dimensions, other timelines, parallel realities, I don't know what. What once was 3D, at least in my experience, has become pretty unstable. And I think it's because I'm open that I can see it. Mind isn't so quick to come in as soon as something is seen and sort, organize, and label it and put it in its little cubbyhole. As we self-observe or just be in the now, we notice more. I'm also understanding now that rather than being the magnificent tool for exploration and expansion, mind is a reducing valve, limiting what we perceive. It does its very best to serve us. So what it does is it works strictly with our beliefs. And it accepts them as rules and laws. And so that's what it lets through into our conscious awareness, things that harmonize with those beliefs. It's one perspective anyway. And so it's a really good idea to be alert, because most of your beliefs are not conscious, they're subconscious. And that makes it more of a challenge, more fun. Everything seems to come to us when we're still. Now, it's tricky. A short daily period of meditation is beneficial because it brings that stillness to the front. It's always there. I mean, there's really nothing stopping us from just having some kind of instant recognition of our divinity. It's there. There's nothing that needs to be gained or sought. Seeking is ridiculous because it causes us to go outside of the self, and every present, every gift is within. I mean, things go from micro to macro. Things go from within to without. And the whole 3D realm is one great big mirror. It's showing us what we are within. Now, as crazy as that sounds, it's tremendously empowering. It tells you if you want to change what's out there, you don't have to do it out there. You do it inside. Much easier, huh? And the whole thing with fighting. Oh my God, that seems so 20th century now. It's really bizarre because all it does is pull us in. It doesn't free us in the least. I think it wasn't Freud. I think it was Jung. Carl Jung was the originator of the quote, "What you resist persists." Well, what is fighting if not, some kind of heavy-duty resistance? And it turns out all we have to do is let go, walk away. All we have to do is pull our energy out. It's not self-control. I call it self-mastery. But we don't do it with a heavy hand. We don't do it the way mind would, which is beating us up, for what we do wrong and for what we don't do that's right, and these are all mind judgments, and judgment is passé now too. I mean, it's no part of the new earth, of being in heart, of being in now. There's no judgment, just like there's no fear. Maybe that's it. Maybe it's fear. See, once we even begin to get a handle on fear and find our native courage, our essence laughs at fear. I mean, it's kind of a joke. Now, it doesn't feel so much like that in 3D, but it's fun to keep reminding the self that you are not this. Nothing that can be seen, touched, physically perceived in any way with any of the senses can be you. You're not that. You're working with this. You're manifesting it, if you will. It's not even solid, even though it seems to be. And as soon as we get over our belief that matter is solid, oh my God, you know, it'll be much like when you're out of your body and you're going through the walls and the mountains and whatever else it delights you to go through. And you can pass right through it. And it's got a funny tickly feeling to all of your atoms and things, but it's very easy to do. There's no reason we can't do that with these bodies. It's a matter of frequency, I suppose. Maybe it's frequency control. I don't like the word control. To me, it's a mental thing, and it just sounds heavy-handed. And love is the way. Love can give you a good swift kick now and again. Notice that we planned a lot of those good swift kicks into our lifetime. These are the things that give us the contrast, so that by tasting of the difficulties and the challenges and the supposed darkness, we know what we don't want. And it just becomes clear all of a sudden. It's like, oh, this is ridiculous. What am I doing, you know? Like one of those Chinese finger puzzles where you put your fingers in and then the tighter you pull, the tighter it gets. There's elegant wisdom in India, in Asia, in China, in Japan, in Tibet. There is elegant, beautiful wisdom there. We also, a really great belief to give up on, get rid of, is that mankind today is at the pinnacle of development and technology and all of that. How we ever believe that, with all of the evidence to the contrary right in our face, I don't know, but it doesn't matter. I don't believe it anymore. I think it's obvious and apparent that those in earlier ages had a very high technology indeed. Even the Maya, their astronomical technology is supreme. I was looking through some books that were on sale, and there was one on, I don't know how to say it right, Ojibwa. There was a whole section on them, and I was going down through, and there was one on a calendar, and in reading the description I was really taken aback, because they have what amounts to 20 sun signs and 13 numbers. Mayans, hello. I mean, I've heard that the Hopi are tied with the Mayans. Obviously, this other tribe is too, and maybe many, many more that today go under different names. And what do we make of the Dogon? You know, over in Africa, who have been willing to walk their talk to sustain their beliefs and their culture and their understandings of things. They too, which, you know, many in the West would like to point to and say, oh, that's primitive, were way ahead of us on their astrological understanding, at least as it relates to Sirius, A, B, and C. They knew about them and their orbits and everything before we even knew they were there. So let's get rid of our own arrogance. Let's kind of give it a shave, huh? We're divine. We don't need this kind of arrogance. This is mental arrogance, and it's what science is full of. Not all scientists, obviously. There's no one group you can point to and say they're all this or all that. Generalities don't work. Generalizations. But there's a lot of doctrine and dogma in science. And for the scientists that can't see that, I feel for them. They're so identified with mine, they're stuck. But that's ignorance, my friends. You can be brilliant and ignorant at the very same time. You can be brilliant in things that don't matter and ignorant in things that do. And maybe that's the case with some of these rather backwards or malevolent, supposedly, groups of ETs. You know, they can have the most advanced technology going and have zero nada for spirituality. So, what's important to us? Who are we? How do we define the self? It all starts there. If we define the self as the 3D being, we're going to get a whole slew of different answers than if we define the self as the essence or the native divinity or source or consciousness or a source beam or whatever, you know. I make it a practice not to try to put words to God too much, to source, just calling it that and leaving it alone, because nouns don't apply. It's not a thing. And it doesn't do us any good. I was brought up Catholic, and to the Catholics, their statues and their representations of the saints and things are very important to them. And yet. And so back then I couldn't understand why there would be a religion that would worship God or source and yet have no representations at all. Well, you know, I see the wisdom in it now. We all, I don't know that we need one another. Maybe that's not the way to say it. But we're not whole without one another. Every culture and every religion has something priceless and precious that it brings to the table. And it's time we were respecting that and being big enough that we don't need to be the only ones getting into heaven. I mean, that too, that's 19th century. That's not even 20th century. To me, I mean, pardon me if that's your view. You're welcome to it. You know, don't get rid of it until you're ready, if you're ever ready. This is my view, and it's my joy to share it. So, it's our beliefs that are holding us back. It really, truly is. Nobody's in charge of us but ourselves. It's just that we've given our power away to this, that, and the other. And we've been doing it long enough down through the incarnations or embodiments, such that it's locked in the cells of the body by this point. It's become physicalized. So in order to reverse that spiral, to roll it back up, it takes some intent, a certain force of power. You know, this is taking our power back. Oh my God, we have been convinced to give it away until we've all but torn ourselves asunder and put bits and parts and pieces of who we are everywhere, in everyone's hands, in the church, in the politics, in the schools, in the sports, in the crowd you run with. And so it's what's important to you. And it's going to be different for you than it is for me. It's going to be different for all of us. And even it's the same thing, if we could say like spirituality, you're going to have a very different flavor of that than I am. Why else individuate? I mean, it's ridiculous. We're policing one another. Like David Icke says, we don't need the shepherd anymore, you know. We've turned on one another. We turn one another in. We do, you know, all kinds of mischief. The best thing that can be said about it, perhaps, is that we're waking up from it and that it was an interesting experience. We gain from all of it. Nothing is for our harm. Even though it may seem to be, even though you may lose the body over it, you know, the body might get killed or something. Well, what's more important, the body or the spirit, the soul, the ethics, the integrity? We're truly fear-free when we're willing to lay it all down. We have a new set of priorities, unlike those who have put technology first and looked to it for their salvation in so many ways, but don't pay attention to the soul, or act as good caretakers to the earth. Who was it said something like, you know, what good does it do if you gain the whole world and lose your soul? There are those that get so trapped in left brain that they're willing to make a bargain like that with the dark force in order to be empowered in any one life and have everything they want, and they think that that will bring them happiness. Well, happiness is kind of a funny fella. Loads of folks chasing happiness. But like everything else, it's internal. We have it all wrong. Everything from source to technology to everything. And so, it's rather fun because we haven't been happy with things the way they are, even when we attain relative wealth. There's been a discontent. And we've been searching, a lot of us, for many lifetimes for what will bring true lasting joy. And we're waking up now, and I see us like a dog that's wet and he's just come out of the water and he's shaking himself off, and all those particles of the water are being slung off, and those are all of the false beliefs, and they weight us down. And every belief has boundaries. Every belief chains us in some way, and every belief limits our vision. Now, how to have no beliefs, I don't know. But as we see them, seems to me is the best way to let them go. with love, like everything else, with love. They served us. They served us well. We wanted that, or we wouldn't have manifested it. We wouldn't have had it. So it's not a bad thing that needs to be destroyed. You know, when you're the one, you can't throw anything away anywhere. You're all of it, and you'll always be all of it. So you're just shifting. You're making some choices and some shifts in what you want to experience. It's not a good idea to burn your bridges with stuff, you know, and resist or war with it or judge it. That's the word I'm looking for. Let's not judge the negative beliefs. Let's just thank them, like our fears, you know. Thank them. Be willing to commune with them on their way out. This is the only way you're ever going to see this kitty, because as soon as anybody comes in the house, this is Cuddles. He does a disappearing act, and in a hurry. He's a sweet kitty. So, have I rolled it out there? Has heart had its say? I think so. I'll look through and see if I can find some fun links to share with you in the written journal that I'll put with this that are relevant. I still have a list of, you know, 15 or 20 things that I've set aside as being good enough and being worthy to share. So I'll find some goodies, and if you like goodies, you'll click over to the written journal so that you can have the live links. When I put what looks like a link, it's a dead link, in the description field, it's just to let you know what's waiting for you and how long the vids are and that kind of thing. Over on Scribed, where the transcript or the written journal will be. Thank you so much. Have as much fun as you want to finding yourself, remembering, putting yourself back together. The way we do this is to let go. That's where I am right now. You may be well ahead of me, and if you are, I wouldn't mind a bit if you put it in the comments, you know, give me a peek at what lays ahead for me. But right now, what I see is the blessing and the benefit of letting go. It's like casting ballast off the hot air balloon, and you rise. And you know, for most of us, that's what we want to do, but not to leave the earth behind, my friends. Don't forget, she's coming along, or we're going along with her on this journey. These bodies, these are not different from Mother Earth in any way, right down to the cell. You know, it has all of the functions of the body, respiration and digestion and all of it. And you know, the organs have this, and the body has this, and the solar system and the galaxies, and it's all fractal, and it's all one, and it's all right inside of yourself. We contain cosmos.